Welcome everybody. My name is Jeff Kikel with T-Werx Coworking. I'm the CEO. And once again, it's another episode about entrepreneurial essentials here. And I want to introduce you to my friend John Russel today of Russel Consulting. Full disclosure, John works with us on our business and is part of our education programs here. But he's also got a very interesting entrepreneurial journey. And I wanted to introduce him to you today and talk a little bit about how he got started and has been doing it for quite a while. Have you ever actually had a real job, John?
No, not really.
That's what I didn't think so. Yes. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? How did this all get started? And you've had a fascinating background. So.
Well, thank you, Jeff. It actually began when I was in high school. And McDonald's wouldn't hire me because back then you had to have a B average on your report card, and my hair was too long. And but my parents were telling me I needed to get a job, and I always had this entrepreneurial bent to me, but I didn't realize it. And I heard about this ad in the school early bird about this lady who was looking for a yard boy back then, okay. Mrs. Lipinski. For $1.50 an hour, she had me chasing army worms and all kinds of weird things. She was totally insane, but it was entertaining. And the neighbor came over and said, "Hey, can you look at our yard?" And I said, "Okay." And then the people across the street said, "Can you look at our yard?" And I said, "Okay." And all my friends in high school, this was an upper middle class area, and they went, "You're a yard man, dude." And it's funny. Well, they stopped laughing when they asked me for a job. And I was the only senior in high school that actually graduated with, making $19,000 in the first 6 months of that year, and then the next year it went up to $36,000. Just grew from there, and the company grew and expanded. And we also grew out another company called Paintcraft Hawaii, and got all the McDonald's accounts. So rather than being hired for McDonald's to flip burgers, we were hired by them to do hanging baskets, and then we got hired to do all their landscape maintenance, and it just took off. So
amazing how that circle worked for you there. I like that.
It did. I mean, it was sweet, and I got to tell you. And the other funny thing is, I started community college when I was 19. And I was wrestling with my math. My math was terrible. I got to basic math, call it a day. That's as good as it's going to get. I'm thinking, how am I going to get my degree, which I got resolved by taking courses in philosophy and things like that. But bad in math. But Small Business Hawaii over there said, "Well, we're looking for speakers to speak to high schools, and would you like to speak to the University of Hawaii business class about entrepreneurship, because you're going to be speaking to that age group." And so I went ahead and spoke, and there was a big article about me in the Honolulu Advertiser, and the math teacher, she says, "Was that you?" And I said, "Yeah." She says, "Well, you don't know your math. How can you be a successful entrepreneur?" I said, "Well, you hire an accountant." "Oh, okay. Well, what about this?" I said, "You hire a lawyer." Oh, and you could tell how perplexed she was. But once again, that was fun, and building empires. And so we built that company and sold it, and nice. Life's been good.
So then you transitioned at some point to actually coaching entrepreneurs. And so how did that happen, and how did you end up working with entrepreneurs for the last 20 years?
Well, that's a fun question. Couple things that happened. I'll kind of add on to that journey. When I came out of, I actually sold the company to finish my college, because the company was just taking away so much energy, and so much time, because when you're running your own business. And I actually had to join Workaholics Anonymous over there. I was 20 years old.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
There was. It was terrible. I was out of control. But anyway, I decided when I got through my college, if I were to go back into that business, I wanted to get a contractor's license. And then we were bidding on projects that landscape architects would give us, and they would say, "Well, this and that." And I'd say, "Well, wait, you're scheduling this on the plans, but that's full sun, that's not applicable. Who's gonna guarantee it? Well, you guys will. I said, I don't think so. So I got so upset with them that I decided to go back and get accredited so I can go directly into business against them. And we got into landscape architecture and landscape design, had home run after home run. So along the way, there are two things that happened. One is we've got a couple more of our company projects in some magazines, and all of a sudden the phone started ringing. It was like people they own a camera shop or they in the trampoline business and say, we read about your track record, about your business, could you come over and give us some advice? I don't know anything about your business. He said, well, can we just talk to you? So I went over there and I was happy to share some advice. And what I discovered is that every business, it doesn't matter if it's big, if it's small, they have the same fundamental challenges. They need to make sure that they're on track of their vision, that their mission is supporting that their strategies are supporting that, there's a long-term plan. And along the same lines, we were having issues with landscape designers that were underbidding us, but they were also losing their shirt. So they'd say, we'll do a set of plans for $15,000 and they should be doing it for $30,000. And so one of my project managers said, John, you always taught us to turn a problem into an opportunity. And you're already talking to these people. Why don't we talk to these other folks who are bidding against us on sets of plans, and we'll make money on teaching them how to do it correctly, where they can have a profitable company. I said, wow, that's an interesting idea. So that's how I really got into back then business consulting.
Very cool.
And in 1995, I decided after I sold the company, I wanted to do that full time.
Mm-hmm. And been going ever since.
Going ever since. Started working with VC groups over in the San Francisco Bay Area. We had some great restaurant ventures, and it was a lot of fun. And then expanded into Europe, particularly in Prague, because Prague back in the 90s was kind of like how Austin is today. Just incredible energy. And the people who used to be behind the Iron Curtain, now they're free, and they're saying, we need to know how do we do this like Western people. So we taught them how to do that. We brought in American companies that needed to penetrate that market, but needed to blend the cultures in, and that's been the journey.
Very cool. So then you came back here to Austin and have been growing your business here. And
came back initially when I had a business partner in Prague, and we wanted to do some exploration, we were looking for cities that had the potential of taking off, and I said, I think Austin's going to be one of them. Mm-hmm. Along the way, my parents lived near Austin, and they started having health issues, and one thing kind of led to another. I ended up spending more time here, and finally just started thinking, wait, I should be putting a lot more energy in Austin, because this place is going to take off like Prague did. And it's been a gold rush.
It's been great, yeah. It's been
fun.
And it keeps growing every day. So
yeah.
So John, tell us a little bit about, when you worked out or with an entrepreneur, you've worked with a lot of younger starting up entrepreneurs. What are some of the challenges that businesses face in the early stages that we all need to be aware of, and the challenges you've seen people have?
I think the number one thing is you have to have absolute clarity as to what your objectives are. And if you clarify that, then we need to also look at whether or not you really have something that people are interested in. Is there really a marketplace?
Okay.
And then who are the competitors? Setting up the systems. That's very critical, because if you don't set up the systems and you don't have a way of doing things, and you don't build your organization from that point on, then you're just prone for a potential disaster later on up the road, and we don't want that. We always want to make sure our clients are building their foundations on rock and not on sand, and that they're thinking ahead.
Okay.
Trends are important.
What are some challenges that you see, after a business gets launched? Because I know we've had these conversations before. What are some challenges that you see once the business is launched, and entrepreneurs' issues that we have?
They tend to lose control of the company. I can still remember the advice. My mom was an entrepreneur as well. I guess that's where it rubbed off. And she said to me, listen, always make sure that you're running the business and the business isn't running you. Mm-hmm. And I took that to heart, and I really believe that. And I try to instill that in particularly new or young entrepreneurs. You have to be in control of your business. It's basic fundamentals. It comes out of, like, Michael Gerber as an example says, always work on your business. Look at what the possibilities are and then go from there. But don't get so buried where you can't see the forest from the trees. That's the number one thing.
Excellent, excellent. So what are you excited about right now? What are you working on?
Well, I've always thought that Austin has and will continue to be the engine of entrepreneurial success here. We're going to lead the charge in this country. It's been exciting. I think what T-Werx is doing is just incomprehensible. It's so exciting, because I think T-Werx really understands what this journey is all about and the support that T-Werx is going to give everyone who comes here. And I've always gotten so excited about people who realize that their real dream and their real vision needs to be self-employed, particularly with young people. There's so many mavericks out there, and they don't understand why they're a maverick. The parents might say, or the teachers might say, you're never going to be anyone. Well, those so-called never going to be anyones many times end up being some of the most brilliant, successful entrepreneurs. They were wired to be entrepreneurs and build empires, not to follow everybody else. So anytime there's an opportunity to shepherd those folks along and help companies become successful, I get really excited.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you part of our crew, and you'll be hearing more about some of the educational programs that John and I are working on together.
It's going to be fun.
That will be coming up after the beginning into early 2017. So keep tuned on that. So this is our 5-question segment.
I better drink some more water.
Drink some more water, because we're going to hit you hard with this one. So, first question: what is your biggest entrepreneurial misstep that you've made?
That is such a great question. Well, there's probably 2 of them.
Okay.
The first one is that rather than flying back and forth to Central Europe from '94 until 99, and I'd stay over there months on end and then fly back to the Bay Area, I will always regret not just packing up and moving over there during the original beginning of the gold rush over there, because there was just so much exciting opportunity. So there were a lot of spin-off possibilities. The other thing is my partner and I, we met with a credit union, and we were going to give them a proposal, and we just totally botched the proposal. From having the man's last name was Jackson, but we couldn't remember. No, the man's last name was it was Jackson. No, his first name was Kendall. So we're trying to remember what his last name was. I remember I was in the wine department, and I called Mark up. I said, "It's Jackson. It's Kendall Jackson." Well, it's because I passed the Kendall Jackson wine department, and so we put it on the proposal. And so he goes, I'm not Kendall Jackson, I'm Kendall blah, blah, blah. And so, first of all, we looked really bad. And made it worse is that we had a significant proposal for an ad campaign for a major player here in this town. And my business partner had just flown back, he had gotten 2 hours of sleep, he was jet lagged, and he looked at me, and I remember Mr. Kendall, and I won't repeat what his real last name was. He said, what exactly can you folks do for us? What are your intended deliverables? And as we had always done successfully, I said, well, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at Mark, I said, and Mark, what else do you have to offer? And what are your other thoughts? He looked at the camera like a deer in headlights. Well, yeah, we'll be good. And then we just walked out, we said, we totally blew it. And that would have been a significant ad campaign that we could have done for them.
Takeaways from that is always make sure you check who the name is on the proposal before you get started.
And not only that, but don't have any, it's better to look a little bit embarrassed and call who is the executive assistant, say just double checking instead of assuming.
Yes.
And, but we always need to laugh at ourselves. When the day we stop laughing at ourselves, at our mistakes, and stop learning from them, then we're doomed to fail anyway. I mean, you just gotta move ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so here's the fun one. We already had this conversation. If you woke up tomorrow, your business was completely gone. You have your computer, you have $500 in your pocket, and you have a place to live and food. What would be the first thing you did?
First thing I would do is grab a pen and paper and a good strong cup of coffee and start jotting down my thoughts. I think there's so much to be said for just processing. You need to process. And you need to make sure that you're taking a step back to look at the bigger picture before you start looking at how to build out from the smaller picture toward the end results. I think a lot of people might be inclined to say, well, I'm going to get out my laptop, Well, that's fine, but I believe in my own approach, there's something said for just processing with the good old pen and paper.
Absolutely. So what's a good tool, maybe it's like an Evernote or a Trello, that you would recommend that people use?
I think it's a combination of all of those things. It's also up to the individual because everyone's wired differently. Some people actually like to take this approach, other people like to take that approach. I go back to the pen and paper initially as a tool just to put my ideas together. Many times if a client is sending me something that we're looking for, I'm going to print all that out so I can go over it and make little notes before I go back onto the laptop and start putting something solid together. We do that with pitch decks all the time. And I just think that being very thorough, but also knowing what your style is, that's critical. Don't do what people tell you you need to be doing. You should do what fits with who you are. Because if you understand that and you build from those strengths, I think you'll be more successful.
Excellent. What's a good book you would recommend for an entrepreneur today?
Every new entrepreneur in particular has to be required. I require my clients to read a book called Build to Sell, and the other one is The E-Myth, of course. All the E-Myths by Michael Gerber. The E-Myth Revisited is probably, in my opinion, the most powerful one for entrepreneurs who need to understand the difference between working in and working on your business. Built to Sell is a great book because it talks about the proposition of not just, you don't want to create a job for yourself, you really want to create a business that you can sell later on, because that's part of your retirement plan. Jeff, I know you're a financial advisor, and you're brilliant at what you do. And this is one of the cool things I like about what you're doing here, because people can build one type of retirement plan, which is the traditional, conventional, you're going to have stocks and investments, blah, 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 blah. What if you sold your company for $10 million? So all of a sudden that's your golden parachute. What are you going to do with that? So merging those two things together, I think that's very important.
Excellent. Yeah, and we'll include all of those books on the show notes page. So make sure you go to the show notes page and you can get all those and a link to those. Lastly, how does our audience get a hold of you, John, if they want to talk to you?
Well, they can go ahead and email me, or they can give me a call. I'm one of those who I'm more than happy just to take a phone call.
Okay.
And you can give me a call at 512-217-3205. Or you can go to our website, the russellconsultinggroup.com. And there is a contact us page on there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. If you go to LinkedIn or you go to Google, John Russell, Austin, Texas. I'm proud to say I'm at the top of the LinkedIn there. So there you go.
There's all those John Russells.
And I look better in that picture than I do in this one, probably.
Whatever.
The ocean's behind me.
Yes. Oh, even better. So thank you very much, John. We appreciate you coming out today. I know everybody loves the story and really where you're at, and thank you for the wonderful advice for our audience. We really
pleasure.
look forward to seeing you more often, and those of you that are around T-Werx and involved in some of our educational programming and things, you'll see John a lot more. So thank you very much for coming out today.
Thank you.
Everyone, make sure that you go to www.t-werx.com, and you can find our show notes page. You'll see the show notes link. Also, you can find us on YouTube. So thank you very much, and have a great day.